What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode number 7 of the More Than Nothing podcast. I have Julian back in here with me today because, well, he's just awesome, but also because in the spirit of More Than Nothing, I have been so exhausted lately and so just pregnant, for lack of a better way to explain it, that I feel like I would like to have another person in here with me. He's the only person on such short notice that I could drag in and force to chat with me about this today. And he always has good insight on mindset and just, we always talk about this stuff anyway, because we're together all the time. So here he is.
Hi, I am here. So what's the topic? What do we got?
Okay, so as you guys know, I like to scroll through my Instagram and pull stuff from the what I call quote posts from the past and use those as topics for the show, because obviously it's something that struck a chord enough with me and meant enough to me to take the time to put it on a picture, put it on my Instagram, and do the write-up. So the one that I chose for this week was not quite a year ago, but it was a while ago. And it said, somewhere there is another person with your exact same struggles making it happen. So I wanted to talk about this because I think maybe with the state that I'm in and the amount of interaction that I'm having with other women who are in my same situation, or maybe a little bit further along or a little bit behind me, I think like 3 out of every 4 women ends up having a child at some point in their life. So that's a lot of women in the world who have felt some part of what I'm feeling right now. And I think that's why I really grabbed onto that one. And kind of the way that I was thinking about it, and what I wanted to talk about to make this into a long enough topic for a podcast, is that I feel that it can be super helpful to people if you share that you have struggles and how you're still overcoming them. And that could be overcoming them for fitness. It could be overcoming them to reach other goals, or just even like, hey, I'm this and this is going on. I'm still showing up to work and doing a good job. So, what do you think about that? Do you look for people who kind of you see maybe have your same background or your same struggles and latch onto them?
You know, what's crazy about this topic is that it applies everywhere, right? One of the things that back in the day, even when I was going out on auditions and trying to figure out how do people pull this off while still trying to make a living. And,
do they though?
Right? That's exactly what this topic is about, right? Who are the people or the individuals that go above and beyond and acknowledge that, yes, this is really hard, and many people are in the same exact boat I am. So a lot of people go out there, they become waiters, waitresses, or take whatever jobs just to make a living. And then you get these calls, and then next thing you know, you have to audition the next day across town at like noon. So that means, well, the minute you get that call, it's like, how much do you want to apply yourself to this? How much does this mean to you? The minute you get that call, you know, if you want to be well prepped, you're not going to sleep. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to put all your time and effort, well, as much time and effort as you want to put into making the best audition you can. And that way you can make a career out of yourself by always doing your best in that. So fast forward to, that's something that, again, gets applied to every position in life. But now that we're in the health and fitness industry, you know, and with our personal struggles and our personal goals, and you being pregnant and overcoming to still making sure that you are the healthiest version of yourself, you're acknowledging the fact that, yes, this is hard, but this is where people give up, or they either continue to know that, yeah, be kind to yourself and then push to do what your message is all about, which is more than nothing.
Right. And I think it's hard to find people, and again, this could be fitness or it could be something else. I think that that it's really easy to find somebody who's crushing life, and crushing what it is, whatever your goals are, and making it look like everything's easy for them. I think that's really easy to find. I had a conversation with a guy in my DM, actually, who DM'd me saying that my message is happiness, but in the last photo that I posted, I looked so unhappy. And I kind of, it was just a selfie. It was more to look at my belly than my face. I wasn't even looking at my face. But I think the image of a pregnant woman taking a selfie is often very fake, and it's easy to find like the smiling, pregnant, oh my gosh, I'm so excited face. It's harder to find, actually it's not harder, it's also easy to find complainers. So it's easy to find somebody who's faking that everything's perfect, and it's real easy to find people who are complaining about everything and saying this is impossible. What I think is hard to find is someone who's saying this is great and I'm doing it, but it also is hard at the same time. I think that's really hard to find the real story there. And so I'm always interested in who people latch onto. So I think more commonly people have a tendency to find people who share in their misery and complain together. So with fitness, for example, a mom of 3 who also works, it is going to be very easy for you to find other people who are in that situation who will tell you it's not possible, it's too hard for us, I feel you, girl, like maybe when they're older, and you'll find this group of people that actually makes you feel better about not going towards your goals, where it's harder to find somebody, or maybe people just don't want to look for the person who's going to say, yeah, it is really hard, I'm doing that too, but I refuse to give up, because that person's going to make you feel like you need to do something about it. And I think people would prefer to find people to tell them that it is too hard and agree with their complaining.
Of course, because it feels good in that moment, right? That goes to even similar, my post on Friday, how I've been trying to talk more about what consistency looks like from my point of view. And Friday, we were exhausted. I had even taken a rest day on Thursday, so I had no reason to be like, I shouldn't. But yeah, I was feeling sluggish. I did not want to work out. I was tired. It's getting to the point where it's getting darker earlier now. The weather's colder, so it's becoming more like, I just want to go inside and stay bundled up and drink something that's warm and keep me cozy. But the fact that we had, you and we had Rachel and Kim and all the people that came to work out that evening, that's the circle. They just get it. So on a Friday evening, instead of just calling it a day or even calling somebody to go out and go do something that is just very unnecessary, we all held each other accountable and just made it happen. And afterwards, none of us had any regrets. We were feeling good. We were able to continue on with our evening. But then you try to be understanding for the individuals that don't have that group. Well, this is us saying, like, it's going to continue to be hard if you keep trying to do this by yourself, because on those days that you're having those challenges or things that are getting in your way, I hope your will is strong and your consistency and your goals are that solidified that you can make it happen, because if not, that's where people set themselves up for failure, right? So find your people, find your group.
And I think we all have people, whether it's friends or family members or coworkers or whatever, we know how people are going to respond, like our friends, about different things. So if I'm feeling like being lazy and I really want somebody else to encourage me to be lazy, I know who to call to be like, oh, I just don't feel like working out. What should I do? I know the person to call that's going to be like, oh my gosh, you worked so hard. Just like take a day off. Versus I know if I call maybe somebody else, they're going to be like, hey, like, I know you're tired, but you can do this. And it's interesting because I think people really need to pay attention to who they're choosing in those situations to call or text, or and it could just be who you follow on Instagram too. Is the person making you motivated, or are they actually demotivating you? It might be because they're showing that their life is so easy and perfect, and you immediately when you see that, you're like, well, that's nice for them. I can't relate to that. I'm just going to give up because I don't have what they have. That person should be unfollowed. Or it could be that you follow a bunch of people who complain just as much as you do, which is really common these days. and talk about how hard and impossible it is and how we should just, all be easier on ourselves, which in some cases is true, but the reason why you latch onto that person and why you reach out to that person, because you want to hear certain things. For example, when I started dating you, I knew the friends to call that would encourage me to fly to LA and hang out with this stranger when, I had just gone through like a divorce, versus the friends that would have been like, maybe it's not the time for you to do that right now. And of course, good thing I call, so it's not always a bad thing, but you know what certain friends or coworkers are going to say and who to go to. You know who's going to go out and eat bad food with you, versus if you're like, hey man, do you want to go out? The guy or girl who's going to be like, yeah, sure, let's go get something clean though, because I'm not trying to eat pizza on a random Tuesday afternoon. And so I think the goal is to be stronger than that and stop before you decide who it is you're going to reach out to or who you want in your circle. And because you have so many friends that if you would have called that day and been like, oh yeah, man, like it's Friday, like they would have been like, oh, whatever, come get beers with us. So many.
Correction, I have no friends.
Well, you used to have
so
friends.
I used to. So I really don't have.
Calling them.
Yeah, so I have no.
I'm your friend.
Yeah, I know, which is, again, you guys are in my group. So I just wanted to clear that up because it's just, I enjoy what I do now. I'm in a position where it's been a long journey for even myself, and you've seen it, But I can say this, it truly is something you have to work on yourself. And you be kind to yourself and don't think it's going to happen overnight. It's just acknowledging the times that you've made decisions that didn't make you feel good and then progressing from there. Don't do things that make you feel bad. Don't make decisions that make you feel bad. So
I think finding people who you can relate to, who also inspire you, is important as well. When I was thinking about us doing this podcast, I was thinking about my childhood and growing up. I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and it was a very traditional environment that I grew up in. All the moms had like minimum 4 kids, and I didn't really grow up in a community where fitness was super important. And all of the adults that I knew were very adulty, and they didn't, there wasn't a lot of play that happened outside of like skiing and things like that, but like there wasn't a lot of physical activity just for fun or working out or anything like that, maybe aside from walking in the neighborhood or something. So I always associated adults with acting and looking a certain way. And just once you're an adult, that's just how everyone is. So much so that when I think I was 20 years old, maybe 21, and I was doing my fitness competition where I was trying to learn how to do a back handspring and a back tuck. I was 21 years old. My mom told me I was too old to be doing stuff like that because I was going to get hurt at 21.
Wow.
And to her, because she grew up in that environment too, so I didn't have, until I started traveling with CrossFit and getting into this community, I didn't have role models of people that were, I'm now 37 years old. All the 37-year-olds that I knew growing up were, they were very much the same. Most of them were stay-at-home moms, which is fine. But they definitely weren't out doing thrusters and like burpee box jumps. Like that wasn't a thing to me. So once I saw that, it changed what I thought of adults, and I realized I do have choices. Like my genetics didn't change, my upbringing didn't change, what I had learned up to that point about nutrition or exercise hadn't changed, but I did find people that inspired me and followed that, as opposed to being like, oh well, that's not how I grew up, that's not how my family is, that's not what my genetics are. So I think it's important for people to find that. Same thing.
It is. You just gotta, refining purpose. Find the people that put you in a position where you refine what your purpose is. Because if you haven't done anything about it, you've lost hope in yourself or you've given up on yourself. And it just takes those individuals or something's out there that's gonna make you refine purpose and bettering yourself.
Yeah, and I don't think it is in finding people who make it look unrealistically easy. I think that's one thing that we all need to be really careful of. Recently, I've had this problem. So obviously, like the fitness thing now for me is dialed in. It's not something that I really have to think too much about. It's just part of who we are. But the business thing, I read a lot of books. I should say listen to a lot of books from like really smart people when it comes to like being an entrepreneur, and I'm obsessed with like the Gary Vee podcast. But I do have a problem sometimes when I'm listening because most of them are men, and I'm like, this is fantastic, but there's still a piece of me that, like in my mind, I'm like, screw you, Gary Vee. Like you're not a mom. Like your wife stays at home. What would it be like if she left, or if she wanted to do what you're doing? The story would be completely different, right? Mm-hmm. So. I still had that, like, you don't know. Like, I love your advice, but you don't know. You're not me. You don't have the same struggles that I do for most of these men that I listen to. So I, like, went out and have been searching for, like, a woman who's not just a female entrepreneur, because you can find female, like, successful females who don't have kids. There's a lot of those. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I need one that has children and that is, like, over 35 years old, So I found a couple, and now I'll follow them and I look at them and try to see how they're doing it. And some of them do make it look too easy, or some of them I can tell maybe aren't the same type of mom that I am, or something like that. But I think it's important that whatever it is your goals are and whatever it is that you're trying to find, like that you take the time to sift through. It doesn't have to be someone that you know in person, because that's the great thing about social media is you can sift through and find. But somebody who you're like, I feel like this person gets me and they're doing what I want to be doing, I'm going to watch that. Mm-hmm. So do you have someone like that?
No. Honestly, it's really weird, but until I find that person, it's just going to continue to be myself. Just because I know what I need to do. And
you definitely didn't grow up with like role models of people doing what you're doing now, though. You weren't around people like growing businesses with all these.
No, and I don't, from my eyes, for me personally, I understand that there's going to be people out there that probably will inspire me and motivate me. But until that moment comes, I'm not going to let it slow me down for what I want to achieve and what I know that I'm personally capable of. But again, when I do meet those people, then I know we're going to connect and we'll have a good conversation for sure. But again, looking inward and acknowledging your weaknesses and work on those for sure.
Awesome.
Well, that was good. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming in and bringing the energy, because you're allowed to have a lot more coffee these days than I am. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've actually toned it down. I'm very proud of myself.
Good job.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys, for listening to
the More Than Nothing podcast, and we'll see you again next week.